Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, my name is Sakina Aulia Rahmah as moderator, and our group members are Fatia Tazkiratun Nisa, Salsabila Az-Zahra, and Muhammad Zainal Arifin. On this occasion, we will discuss about the characteristics of effective EFL instructors in Iran context. Era of globalization as it is now, there is a shift from traditional education to modern education, as is the case in developing countries like Iran. In addition to the presence of mass media, satellite, and the internet, we are also faced with new and modern methods of thinking and learning. Nowadays, the dissatisfaction of language learners with grammar translation style classes offered by school institutions, which mostly refer to private institutions for quality language learning. The purpose of this paper is to investigate what language learners conceive as a successful and effective language teacher. Okay, now we move to the next material will be delivered by Muhammad Zainal Arifin. Time is yours.
Okay, the next material is review of literature. Point 1 is characteristic of desirable teacher. Brown in 1978 regarded effective factor as the principal feature of an EFL instructor and showed that a great language trainer is sympathetic in direction of learning, creates a meaningful communication surrounding inside the lecture room and the boosts rookie self-esteem. Dancer Goksu, Takak, and Yayizi in 2013 draw interested to characteristic along with socio-affective abilities, pedagogical information, situation remember expertise, and personality tendencies. True teacher throughout discipline have tried in commonplace. However, EFL teacher different from a teacher of other field in Northern method, included Al-Mahoriki, Denman, Al-Shiabi, and Al-Mare in 2015. Consistent with Pettis in 1978, to be professionally effective, language teacher need to make sure a stability of principle, know-how, and capabilities. Moreover, they are trying to find out an extensive range of schoolroom activity and different content material attention. And the next point 2 is studies on powerful teacher characteristic inside the context of language coaching. Bell in 2005 studies in trade of effective EFL instructor in 3 international locations along with Germany, French, and Spain. Based totally on her result, a professional consensus emerged concerning EFL trainers' behavior and their attitudes. In some other study, Borg in 2006 investigated in one-of-a-kind trend of the 200 working toward and potential instructor working in the authority of hierarchical language teaching context. The findings of his examine found out the language teacher have been gave the impression to be exclusive regarding to nature of concern, teaching material and method, relationship between instructor and beginner, and issue related to fame of native and non-native language teacher. Zizavan and Sadeghi in 2009 explored the quality of effective language instructor from the perspective of Iranian EFL beginner and instructor. Their finding verified that be common of the target language, excellent knowledge of pedagogy, the use of powerful coaching technique, and the top personality become present as important thing. Characteristic of an effective EFL trainer. In the end, in the current observed with the aid of the Kuliki in 2018, potential EFL instructor perceptions of characteristic of powerful teacher were studied, based totally on the outcomes of the questionnaire and semi-based interview. Numerous characteristics of the effective instructor have been identified. The maximum crucial of the which including giving the genuine example, being prepared for the listen, being clear and understandable, and the usage of stable coaching aids and steps. Point 3 is evaluate. Adjustment in language teaching strategies for duration of the past centuries are immediately experienced by desired when they get up from the newcomers. Little current language entered the training system in European nation. They have been taught they used unequal techniques that were used to train Latin. This memorizing list of vocabulary, strict grammatical police, and sentence of translation. A number of primary standards of the technique have been 1. The principal cause of the mastering overseas language is studying about the literature. Point 2. Studying, writing, and specific grammar are primarily important. Point 3 is accuracy is expressive significant. Point 4, the scholar's native language is used in the school room. Point 5 is introduction or instructor center. After a couple of many years with the princes of the World War in Europe at the some point and the beginning of the 12th centuries, a new one for language learning emerged. The army soldiers which were dispatched to Europe to war is out with the Germans and their allies were required to examine the language for spoken purpose. The Navy infantrymen have been required to gain spoken talent rather than writing proficiency, which become vital with spear in the grammar translation method. This is called a new technique which is emphasis the spoken factor of a language and presses to the written aspect. The technique following through the army later developed into a brand new approach and referred to as an audiolingual technique. A number of primary principles of the approach is overseas language studying is a mechanical manner of the may be finished through the non-stop repetition of the system and conversation. Spoken from the language outweigh written from in important. The study native language is forbidden inside the classroom. There are no tolerance for mistake. Class are instructed targeted. Of primary hobby for this paper are the job of the freshman and the academic in this approach. As the status above, with the communicative approach, the focus in the technique of the communicate itself in preference to mastery of necessary linguistic gadgets. The learned plays a big role within the legacy, the elegancy, and the anticipant to take part actively inside the elegancy sports. They are also anticipated to engage with one another the same stage in the class as appointment to just with the instructor. Brett and Carlin in 1918 announcement regarding the scholar function truly showed the newbies take on the library role as opposed to passive one. The function of the learned as a negator among the self, the mastery manner, and the object of learning emergence from the extract with the role of joining negotiator in the organization and the study room in the technique and the activity, which the institution undertakes. The consequence for the learned is that to have to make a contribution as to lot as he profit and travel to learn in independent way. The trainer role, however, is a facility herbal exchange among the beginners throughout the said activity to provide learning with insight on the way to come to be successful language newbies by using sharing his or her personal studies of language learning and to arrange a set. With the upward truths for such scholar concentrate methods to language teaching, taking into consideration the scholar's critics and feeling toward the gaining knowledge and method. Richard and Roger in 1988. An overload attention has been given to development and use of device to evaluate the equality of the lecture room mastering, surrounding from the angle of both teacher and the college students. As Dr. Simon Borg, a senior lecturer at the College of Leeds, believed in getting ready destiny language instructor training presumes to have information of what mainly it manner to be a language teacher. However, what this one-of-a-kind characteristic are they stable across numerous social cultural contexts. Consistent with Borg, the constructor of the language trainer isn't always a one-leg-fit-all phenomenon, and the contextual factor can also in the long run determine how it assembles is conceptualized. For the reason, know how what it is mannered to be a language teacher, especially coaching and study context, is a principal issue for the language instructor schooling. Research on this regard is confident, and the voice in the maximum crucial player and the any language study room. This is the pupil has been overlooked. As the change into divided above in a conventional united state of America like Iran, as much as the present maximum of the lecturers and establishment recognition become a one on growing the student grammar and vocabulary range. But with the risk of immigration to English-talking nation, increasingly more college students are feeling the need for the greater communicative approach. Non-public language institutes have been brief in satiation this need among their consumer. One key characteristic of the communicative techniques of language teaching is the student play a key function and the are center of interest. Unlike the traditional technique in which instructor dominate as Leo Jones in 2007 says, student-centered study room isn't a place wherein a student comes to decision what they want to examine and what they want to do. It's a place where we bear in the mind the will is the scholar as a collection and as people and inspire them to participate in the studying process all the time. The instructor positioned in extra depth of facilitator, with student playing a vital position in cutting-edge school room, researching are taking more interest in the pupil interest and studying alternative considered the lecture room clothes, curriculum and the lecture room teacher.
The next material will be delivered by Fatia Taskiratunisa. Time is yours.
3. Method. The method used here is a quantitative method by means of a questionnaire. Quantitative methods are quantitative research methods that is completed in a systematic, well-planned, and clearly structured form, from the beginning of the research to the design. Quantitative research methods collect data in the form of numbers, which can be added to categories in a hierarchical order, and then measured in units of measure. This data type can be used to create graph and table of raw data. 3.1 Research question. The question posed by the researcher were those that were eager to know, such as, what are the characteristics of an effective teacher according to student, and what items have the highest priority in each questionnaire category according to students? This question is a general question, and many students want to voice their opinion because they have some teachers who they think are not effective. It is one of the simple questions of the many questions that are on the minds of researchers. 3.1 Participants. The questions that have been met will be distributed to 12 participants, consisting of 9 female and 3 male students. Distributed to students who study English at the beginning, pre-intermediate, and to advanced level. The questionnaire was distributed at a school in Tarbis, Iran. 3.3 Instruments. The data collection tools used is a questionnaire, There are 58 questions that have been developed by reading literature, standard observation of language school teachers, and the researchers' own teaching success experience. This 58 questionnaire will be divided into 8 with the title of each section being personal qualities, instruction in English, teaching methodology, evaluation methods, total teacher emphasis on various skills, teaching mastery, teacher-student relation, and the last is class institute management programs. To ensure the clarity of the survey items, the researchers translated the questionnaire into the student national language and provided the necessary explanation about the items. 3.4 Procedure. Participants are expected to write out questions according to their respective interests. The options available for the questionnaire are not important at all, somehow important, very important. Students are also assigned to compare the importance of each item with other items in the same category by numbering each item. Number 1 being the most important item in each category, and a free writing section will be prepared by the committee if participants want to add explanation or add items that are more specific for themselves and are not listed in the survey. After all the questionnaire has been filled in, each item will be calculated as a percentage.
Then we move to the next material and will be delivered by Salsabila Azahra. Time is yours.
The first section of the questionnaire was regarding the personal qualities of an effective teacher, as can be seen from the table above. The gender, age, appearance, and loudness of the teacher is of very little importance to the majority of the students. However, 73.80% of the students thought that an effective teacher should be interested in his or her job and should show a sense of responsibility towards it. Also, there was a consensus among students that the teacher should be lively and active and should be punctual in his or her presence in the class and in returning the students' papers. What is more interesting is that a vast number of the students numbered the item, having interest in his or her job and feeling responsible for teaching is their first priority in terms of the importance of the item in comparison to the other 9 items in the personal qualities category. In the table 2, the teacher's comment of the foreign language is taken into consideration. What is the evidence from this table is that the majority of the students thought that all the items in this category are of importance. In fact, none of the students marked the not important option. In contrast, 83.33% of the students mark accuracy of teacher vocabulary as very important. 52.38% of the students who marked this item also marked it as their first priority in comparison to the other items under this category. It is also evident that the teacher's intonation plays a lesser role in the student's perception of an effective teacher. Regarding the methodology applied in the classroom, the students showed a preference towards teachers who encourage students to use the second language in the classroom at all times. More than half of the students marked this item as very important. The second item with the highest percentage belongs to explicit correction of the students' errors by the teachers. 42.85% of the students have marked this as very important. In addition, using the students' native language in the classroom was not considered as a merit by the majority of the students. 19.4% of the students marked this item as not important at all, and 47.61% marked it as somehow important, which show the modest attention paid to this creation and that students prefer not to use first language in the classrooms. Finally, students prefer teachers who provide a tailored explanation before and during the reading and listening tasks. 52.38% of the students mark this item as an important feature of a successful teacher. Regarding the priority of the items, the first item, that is using appropriate teaching techniques, was marked by 18 of the participants as their first priority in comparison to the other 12 items in this category. Table 4 is regarding the evaluation methods applied to the classroom. The majority of the students mark both written and oral forms of evaluation as either important or very important, which accentuates the importance of continuous evaluation in the students' perceptions. In comparing written and oral forms of evaluations, students showed a preference towards oral quizzes, with 80.95% of participants marking oral forms of evaluation as their first priority. The following table shows the students' perception towards different skills in a language class. The majority of the students have marked all language skills as important or very important. 73.89% of the students state that emphasis in speaking is very important. This percentage shows the majority of the students prefer teachers to work on their oral skills in comparison to other skills. This is reflected in the priority of the students gave to teachers who focus on speaking too. More than half of the participants marked this item as their first priority. Moreover, only 2.38% of the students marked the not important at all option for emphasis in grammar, which show the modest importance students attribute to grammar. Table 6 concerns the mastery the teacher has over teaching. According to this table, the majority of the students believe that there is no need for the teacher to have any knowledge of the student's specialist courses. The statistic might have been different if the participants of the research were enrolled in English for specific purpose or ESP course rather than a general English course. In addition, 59.52% of students believe that it is very important that an effective and successful teacher has comprehensive knowledge of the subject matter and that he or she is able to answer the students' questions. In the free writing section, one of the students mentioned that knowledge of the subject matter is not adequate for a teacher to be considered successful and that he or she must also be able to communicate that knowledge successfully to his or her students. This opinion is also reflected in the importance allocated to the teacher ability in transferring ideas and knowledge to the students. 45.23% mark this item as very important, and 40.47% mark this as important. Regarding teacher-student relation, it is evident from the table below that knowledge of the student's mother tongue lacks importance for a large number of the students, as 33.33% have marked this item as not important at all, and 33.33% have marked it as somehow important. Students also believe that there is no need for teachers to give feedback to the students' parents. 52.59% mark it as not important at all, and another 33.33% believe it was only somehow important. Other observable figures are regarding the importance students allocate to teachers who create motivations, have respect for students, are kind and friendly with students, encourage participation, ask students for feedback about the lesson, and help students to increase their confidence. The majority of the students have marked the items listed above as important or very important. And the last table is titled Class Management or Institute Programs. According to this table, using the class time wisely, in other words, not wasting the class time, is largely important to the majority of the students. 73.80% have marked this as very important, and another 23.80% have marked it as important. Another substantial figure is regarding the importance students place on maintaining order in the class. Over 80% of the students have marked this item as either important or very important.
Finally, the investigation established what the students felt were the attributes of effective EFL lecturers. According to this research, some of the most important features of an effective and successful EFL teacher are having interest in his or her job, having a sense of responsibility towards his or her job, being enthusiastic and lively, being self-confident, being punctual, encouraging students to use the target language at all times, providing explicit grammar correction, providing detailed explanation during reading and listening tasks, emphasizing frequent oral quizzes, emphasizing all skills, especially speaking, having knowledge of subject matter, and other features such as having the ability to communicate ideas effectively, having the ability to answer the students' questions, having respect for students, being kind and friendly, encouraging participation, creating motivation in students, helping to increase the students' self-confidence during learning, taking students' feedback about the class into account. Teachers and institutional managers have specified certain criteria for teaching without considering the main participant of the classrooms, that is, the student. The findings of the current paper have specific implications for existing and prospective EFL lecturers and teachers. Teachers have to take the students' needs and perspectives into consideration when teaching. The old method of teacher-centered classrooms must give way to new student-centered approaches in the Iranian EFL context for successful and effective learning to take place. Alright guys, that's all from our group, and thank you so much for the attention. We hope this is useful for all of us, and we apologize profusely if there is any inconvenience when you watch our video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.